welcome back everyone to another episode of Kingdom of Dreams podcast, The Making of Stories. I'm your host, Jawad Mir. My apologies for missing in action. I've been working on a film for the last little while, just developing it, so that's supposed to go into production in the next couple of months. But we're back. Today my guest is Brian Berdan. He's an editor who got his break with Oliver Stone's film, Natural Born Killers, which was originally written by Quentin Tarantino, and then Oliver Stone gave his touch to it. This is before Tarantino was Tarantino. I think it's one of his earliest films, maybe the first one or second one. I'm not sure if it was that or True Romance that was the first one. I hope you enjoy my conversation with editor Brian Berdan.
Nice, nice. Got a good stack of books there. Cool.
Yes, that's somewhat of knowledge that I've gained over the years, but still learning. Really pleased to have you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
My pleasure. I don't talk about work very much at all, and it's like, really, what do I do? In fact, every time I start a new job, if there's been any gap, it's like, oh, how do I push those buttons? What am I doing? I don't know how to do this. So, um, but it's I've taught a few classes over the years, not a lot, but that always makes me focus a little bit on what the process is and what my thinking is. And I'm going to teach a very short class in 2 months here, and I've just been making some notes on that, so that helps get the gears going again.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. It's sometimes it just comes second nature, right? And then when you start
Yeah,
reflecting back on it, it's then you realize, oh, I did this because of that and X, Y,
yeah,
Z. So
yeah.
awesome.
Mostly instinct.
Um, yeah, true. And I haven't seen, so I don't know if I ever saw Natural Born Killers. I may have. It's been
Huh?
a long time, but if I rewatched it or I watched it the first time to this morning,
Oh, you
and
did. Not a really
yeah.
good morning breakfast kind of show.
No, but it is so interesting because it is obviously Quentin Tarantino and Oliver Stone co-wrote it. It was way before Quentin Tarantino even directed Reservoir
Yeah.
Dogs, I think a couple of years before,
Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
right?
And they didn't co-write it like they worked together.
Yeah,
It,
I
yeah,
know.
very acrimonious.
Yeah, but what was so incredible about this film, even though it kind of got me off guard, because you're used to watching a film in one tone, one feel from
Mhm.
beginning to end, but this had like everything from, ridiculous amount of cuts, then different color palettes,
Yeah.
and the way the camera moved, and even the um, social undertones that were there in the 90s, which is unfolding in front of us right now, how everybody
Yeah.
likes to be on camera and
Yeah.
no matter how crazy it is. It is actually a very interesting commentary on society, and I really enjoyed it despite its little bit of undisturbing stuff, but you
Yeah.
get accustomed to it. So thank you for being a part of it. An amazing, amazing cut, probably one of the most amazing editings I've seen in a long time. So thank you.
Good. What's funny is I was asked to speak at a friend's class a few years ago. I hadn't
Yeah.
seen the film pretty much. I don't think I'd seen it since it came out, and we screened it in the beginning of the day. And it struck me, wow, this is actually a lot slower than I thought. With the way things have developed over the years. At the time, you said there's a lot of cuts. We finished that on film, and the film timer, the color timer, they had a machine that was very mechanical. And he said, "You almost broke our machine because it would have to switch so quickly."
Yeah, this is before the digital, like the flatbed editing, and when you're putting through the sprockets and cutting and taping and all that stuff.
No, we cut it electronically.
Oh, you did
Uh,
electronically, okay.
Yeah, it was the first show that I'd ever done electronically, and just get the bigger picture. That was really my first full upfront credit. I had edited as an additional editor on a show just before that, but that was the first time, full upfront credit. Um, and all my
So,
training as an
like,
assistant had been on film, and we just decided, let's try this new system. It was called Lightworks, British system.
what's the difference between, I mean, I've cut on flatbed editing like short films way
Mhm.
back in the late 90s and done digital. What's electrical? How is that different from
You,
the two?
you mean digital?
Digital.
Yeah, computer.
Okay, so it is digital. Okay, when you said
Yeah,
electrical, I was kind of like,
yeah, right.
okay, awesome, awesome.
Using
Uh,
antiquated term. Um,
Wait.
the just the history of why, well, not really history why, but uh, just before I came on, Oliver had done, well, actually, I was on Heaven and Earth just before as an assistant. Before that, they did Natural Born Killers. I mean, sorry, JFK.
JFK? Yeah, yeah.
And they cut that on tape, tape to tape, 3/4 inch tape. And the crazy thing about that is it would record the numbers for the picture. Fine, it would make an EDL for the picture cuts, but there was no tracking of the sound and very complex movie, complex sound. So there was no record except the audio sound of what they put together. They didn't know where it came from, where the pieces came from to go back to the originals to go to the final mix. So they had to hire, I think it was like 40 sound editors to ear match, to go through and
Wow.
listen to each little piece and try to find it in the reel to reels. So the 1/4 inch. Anyway, that was crazy. So it was good to come on to electronic editing, digital editing.
And JFK was one of those films, again, I have seen it. I haven't seen it in a long time. I mean, obviously the story, it's a true story.
Mhm.
And to have everything right
Put,
in that
put
sense.
quotes there, put quotes there, a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's based on the true story.
Yes,
And
yes.
but to have that kind of, you have to make sure that everything is authentic, and to
Mhm.
have sound, 40 sound editors is quite remarkable. I mean, it's crazy. Like, again, going back to Natural Born Killers, it's I don't, when you said it was slow, I felt it became, I don't know if it became slow, it became very calm, especially
Mhm.
after the halfway through, like after Robert Downey Jr. comes in, Tommy Lee
Mhm.
Jones, Tom Sizemore. It doesn't become slow for me. It just became more calmer than the craziness that took place in the first hour.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to modulate pacing and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It would be an onslaught if it stayed at that pace. So yeah, there were some places where we just let it kind of flow and, change the music up and
yeah. So tell me, how uh, did your process for that editing that film was? Like, what was the process of, even when you came on board, like Oliver's vision to you, was it like, okay, we're gonna cut it like this? Like, is that what he sort of gave you that information, or he just left it to you? So just whatever that was,
yeah.
just, you
Yeah.
can you can go through it.
Yeah. So the first time I cut anything for Oliver was on Heaven and Earth. I was an assistant, and there was a scene that the editors weren't getting to, so they gave it to me. And Oliver just said, just wow me, whatever, just make it work. So I cut this rape scene, and he was like, "Whoa, that's a bit much," So he never gave directions on how to cut things. He just wants to feel something, make you feel something. So, he's not a real technical person. He just goes for the emotion and the truth of whatever the scene might be. So yeah, there were no directions for Natural Born Killers. And uh, working with Bob Richardson's footage was just what a great experience, because you're just given this giant bucket of beautiful, crazy, messy, you can pick what you want to, which direction you want to go. Um, Although a lot of times you wouldn't be able to edit a scene in any one format because it wasn't covered completely in one format. It was constantly switching black and white, color, 16:35. So you're sort of forced sometimes to intercut formats, which was fun. Um, like there's one scene in the jail cell where Mallory, Juliette Lewis, is with Tom Sizemore, and
Mm,
it's just it's I didn't have real coverage back and forth easily, so there's like 5 jump cuts in different formats on the same angle. It's like, well, that's what you got to do. Um, but as far as the process goes, yeah, it's just Oliver's thing is just make me feel something, just wow me. And so I was working with Hank Corman, who had edited on JFK, and he and I just took the script and divided it into 6 sections because that's how our hard drives would be divided. Um, this Lightwork system had these towers, the gigantic towers. Each one was 60 gigabytes. This seemed amazing
Yes.
at the time, yeah. And
Yeah.
we had six of them. So if we wanted to trade off a scene or something, you'd have to put the tower on a little, we had a skateboard and we'd roll it into the other editor's room and hook it up and, very laborious to swap scenes. So for the most part, we stuck to our own sections of the film. It was every other, basically every other 20 minutes. Um, and I would say it's kind of amazing that there's a lot of continuity in the style in the film because Hank and I are, I would say, fairly different. He's very right-brained. I'm pretty left-brained, but we melded and just had a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun, basically. Kid in a candy store. I mean, that being my first upfront credit was a great honor.
And I think it shows in the cut, right? That the word that you used, we had a lot of fun because it
Mm,
was very unconventional, right? Even
mm,
the way it opened up with the camera kind of like a Dutch style and then moved this way and
yeah.
then everything sort of unfolded from there. And what was so incredible about the you can call it the script, you can call it direction, you can call it editing, cinematography, or all of the above, is
Yeah.
that even though that opening scene in the diner you
Mhm.
actually, I mean, maybe I'm crazy that I actually felt that way, because you feel for the characters, Woody Harrelson and Julie, like right off the bat, despite their actions,
Yeah,
and
good.
how it's just crazy how those emotions kind of kick
Yeah.
off, and it also kind of goes back to what Woody Harrelson's character. I'm horrible with character names, so please
Yeah, yeah.
forgive me.
Yeah. Ricky
When he
Melon.
was when he was doing the interview with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
and like, why do you kill? And it's like, well, everybody, if given the opportunity, more or less would do that, right?
Yeah.
But which I think is true. I think we're worse than animals. If the opportunity presented itself
Yeah.
and we had to, we probably would.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I mean,
So
yeah. Oliver said that. He's like, we're all devils inside. We all have the devil inside too, basically. I don't remember what his term was, but um,
yeah.
um,
But let me ask you this, right? So you when did you last see it? You just recently?
no, it was probably, might have been, at least 10 years ago. Yeah. So I
Okay,
have,
so that was the rise of social media around that time.
yeah.
I mean, it was already there. So I always thought, have you seen that movie at TV with directed by Ron Howard, Matthew McConaughey?
No, I haven't. Yeah.
Okay, so great film. It's literally about like literally this guy decide agrees to be on camera 24/7. It's
Yeah.
like think about live streaming, on
Yeah.
social media. I
Yeah.
always thought that was like the sort of the, if you want to use the word pioneering in terms of predicting how the future would unfold, but I think Natural Born Killers is was way ahead of its time,
Yeah.
way ahead.
Yeah.
And how,
The social and the the fame at all expenses. Yeah.
yeah. So, and then not just that, that the fact that audiences in the film, like, but they were rooting for these two guys, like,
Yeah.
with magazine covers and how people, kind of like that Jerry Springer show, right? What was it, that Jerry Springer show? Like how
Exactly. Yeah.
people would like watching that stuff. So
Yeah.
interesting, but I'm just kind of rambling on. I just thought it was
No,
interesting
no.
commentary.
It's a sick world.
It is. I know it's been a while. Do you remember? It's been a long while, but would you remember any of the most challenging things that you had to go through in terms of editing a scene or trying to figure out how to put this scene together, et cetera, et cetera? Or any kind of technical or story-driven challenge that you may have had, whether on your own or working with Oliver Stone,
Mm. Yeah, I was thinking about Nixon a little bit.
which is a great movie, by the way.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
I
it's a
had the
great one.
most fun on that one because it was Shakespearean and wild comedy, and that had emotion to me. Um, Partly because Oliver uh, kind of riffed off his feelings for his dad, who was very conservative, and um, yeah, you really felt for Nixon, which was hard to imagine. I did at least, when he's standing in front of the picture of painting of JFK and saying, "When they look at you, they see what they want
Yeah.
to be." When they look at me, they see what they are.
Uh,
It's like, yeah, we're all Willie Lomax, Loman. Um, but yeah, hard scenes. You know, the one in the jail cell had to figure out, okay, yeah, just don't worry about the format. Just jump cut formats and stay in the same angle if you have to. Um, Other hard, yeah, I should have reviewed the film this last night.
That's okay. That's okay. I was just, but
Yeah.
let's go to something else then. Like, were you? I know some editors back in the day. I don't know if it's still the same thing. Would be on set like as the dailies were coming in and they were just kind of popping in. Were
Yeah,
you
that'd be the
sort of?
worst thing.
But was that something you came after it was done production, right?
No, no, no. We're on from the first day of shooting.
Okay.
So we were
So
on location,
so
but we were in a trailer or a hotel room or whatever.
so getting all the different formats, right?
Mhm.
35,
Yeah.
16. Was that intimidating in the beginning? Like getting all the
Yeah,
stuff?
it was a lot of footage. Yeah, definitely was a lot of footage. And since that was the first show I'd cut digitally, I didn't, I was daunted by it. And then I started to realize, oh, you can just scroll through it quickly to see what the hell you got rather than having to spin through film. You can jump around. And there was also a delay in when we would get footage because the Super 8 stuff took a while to process. It was, a little different, a little special. The 16 did
Hmm.
too. We'd get the 35 millimeter stuff right away. Um, yeah, what a logistical post-production supervisor nightmare. Bill Brown did that job, a friend of mine, and just keeping track of all the footage. There were on a lot of films they label the cameras A camera, B camera, C camera. Maybe D, E, F. I think we went up to T
Oh my God.
because there were things
Oh
like
wow.
Pixel Cam, the Fisher Price toy, little Pixel Cam that records on audio cassette, basically. That was one of the cameras. Uh,
Wow.
Crazy stuff. Yeah.
T camera. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
But yeah, daunting when you just sit down and see this big list of shots that you got to go through, and they work pretty quickly. Oliver and Bob had a pretty tight system going, so they could fly through the day and just get a lot of setups done. So yeah, it was daunting, and I hadn't really developed my system because I had hardly edited anything, and certainly not electronically. But then, just close the door and
Off you go.
off you go. Just thinking about when we were in Chicago, they were shooting at the prison, Joliet prison, and we were in the Ambassador East Hotel, a very nice hotel in what do they call it, the Gold Coast or whatever, north of downtown, and very nice place. Um, and I'm cutting the scene where Jack Scagnetti kills the prostitute. The train's going by the window, and there's a lot of screaming and chaos. And I've got hotel guests around me, and we're just working. They they were very concerned. My wife came to visit me once, and she left the room, and someone leaned out their door and said, "Are you okay?" But yeah,
Wow.
I just closed the door and just power through it. And I just started to realize the freedom that the unconventional coverage gave you, that you could do anything, just have a feeling, find the best moments, and continuity doesn't really matter, just emotional continuity. Um, we had to cut pretty quickly, I would say. I don't remember, the exact timing, but most films within a couple weeks after shooting, or even 10 days or a week, whatever, you've got a cut of some sort to show. Because we had to screen on film and we were cutting digitally, there was a lag having to conform the film. But I think we had a cut within 4 weeks. We were probably showing Oliver, you know, the
That's pretty
full.
good.
Yeah, yeah. That was, there's a lot of barriers to get to that.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I'm imagining that the way it was shot, I'm imagining that there were not that many takes per scene. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
like
right.
5 takes, 10 takes.
Right.
It kind of felt like a run and gun situation, right?
Yeah. And Oliver doesn't normally shoot a lot of takes.
Yeah.
Five would be a full run. Um, and they just wanted to get all kinds of great angles and the formats and stuff like that. So yeah, they wouldn't sit there and struggle over one line or whatever. And the
Yeah,
actors were good. They didn't
they were.
there wasn't a lot of trouble with people not knowing their lines and stuff like that. So which
Yeah.
is pain in the neck.
To be working on a film like that, right? Even for today's time, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Um, did it have an emotional toll on you? Like the working through it, that it would just kind of take you in a dark place?
Um, Not me so much. It's funny because I would read prospective jobs, the scripts to my wife. We'd read them back and forth to each other. Matchborn Killers, we were sitting in the backyard, a beautiful sunny day, and I'm reading this crazy script, hoping hope the neighbors aren't hearing this. But we laughed a lot. It was very funny on the page. Um, you know, Quentin's version was not supposed to be funny, and Oliver put a lot of humor in it, and then it got even funnier when they were shooting. The opening scene where they they kill everybody in the restaurant in the diner. Um, get into the ratings problems, but you have a shot where you're on a bullet, the bullet's twirling in front of the camera as you ride towards the victim. That's cartoon, that's cartoon violence. So um, that film I didn't really get upset by until later.
Mm.
Next few years, you start to hear people attributing murders to it. Um, I believe there were maybe a dozen people who said,
Oh,
"Yeah, I watched it over and over again before I went and shot this person."
wow.
And that's that cemented my feeling that we really shouldn't be glorifying violence. We tested. I live up in Seattle, and we had come up here before I moved here. Come up here to test the film. Had a couple of screenings, and you get your cards at the end of the night. Everybody's comments on the cards. A third of the people hated it. A third of the people enjoyed it. A third of it were crazy passionate.
Divided. Yeah.
No, one guy, this is where I was like, oh gosh, we might be in trouble here. One of the cards looked like it was scrawled in crayon, said, "This film makes me want to kill." That
Wow.
was sobering, sobering. Um, I yeah, I don't remember the details of one of the famous trials, but it was a big issue in the trial. Um, Someone had just, it was a trigger. So I just turned down being considered for a job 2 days ago that just too much violence. I don't do it. And horrors, I've done some horror fix-it stuff in the last few years, and that's kind of cartoonish. But even that, it's just not a place I think we need to go too much.
Yeah.
I had probably the most enjoyable job of my life last year. Last film I did was called Trust Me, I'm a Doctor. Cal Penn, very funny. And it's like, wow, why aren't we writing more films like this? It was heartwarming, funny, drama. And, you don't need too much blood. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I think it's interesting you mentioned that because when so I didn't see Quentin Tarantino's films until
mhm,
2013, 2014.
mhm,
And one of the reasons was that because I couldn't take violence. At
yeah.
least I thought maybe I was at the young age I couldn't. But
Mhm,
10, 12 years ago I started watching them, and maybe with my age, the matureness probably had a different
mhm,
reaction to it. And I love all of the stuff that he's done.
mhm.
But I wonder how that would have been if I had seen them at the age of, early 20s, mid 20s. I mean, even
Yeah.
by then you're
Mhm.
more so mature, but still.
Yeah. 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 No, I the idea that it doesn't affect our culture is completely wrong. It
Yeah.
does. It's a echo chamber and an amplifier, like social media, or AI. All it is doing is just building up whatever bad instincts we have.
Yeah.
So why not build up the good instincts? So
I
uh,
agree. I agree. But, I think even though it's pretty bad that all these people were referencing to it in courts or in killings, but it kind of goes to show that the film had a point that we all have
I mean,
ridiculously dark sides, and if you push those buttons,
yeah.
um,
Mhm.
things will come out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh, and what was so I was on Rotten Tomatoes just again after watching the film, even though it's probably not something that was reflective of the time. I think it was like 83% audience and to 28 or 33% critics.
yeah.
Right? Uh, looking back at it now, um, does it scare you? Well, let's forget the violence for a second.
Yeah.
Does it scare you how accurate it was in terms of the social commentary of how the attention is always sought, no matter what it is? I mean, look at the Kardashians and,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that stuff.
No, it doesn't surprise me at all. If you remember, the end of it has a lot of flashbacks of or hits of the news that was going on at the time. Oliver was totally playing off of that, and we knew that was integral to the reality of what's going on was integral to the film. In fact, we had finished, wrapped, mixed, everything was done. I went on vacation to England, and um, the white Bronco O.J. Simpson
Oh,
experience happened, and film had to be opened up again to insert his little piece in there because it was so current and so right right in the zeitgeist. So yeah, not surprised that it was prescient or reflective of what was going on.
yeah. I remember O.J. Simpson trial. I remember my dad used to watch the trial every single day. I think it was the
Yeah,
first time that something was broadcasted like that on CNN.
yeah,
And that's what
yeah.
made CNN CNN
Oh my
was
God,
O.J.
yeah,
Simpson trial.
yeah.
Um, Working with Oliver, I mean, you've worked on him on few projects, this and Nixon.
Mhm.
What's that like? I mean, I've seen a lot of his work. I've seen a lot of his interviews, even the Putin documentary series that he did,
Mhm.
and how he sort of thinks out of the box, even
Yeah.
on political issues and film issues. What's like that working with him as a director
Um,
and a human being?
just starting out and diving into his crazy world at the time. He was at the peak of his powers
Peak,
right then.
yeah.
He had Final Cut. I was definitely spoiled by that. I had worked with on David Lynch films as an assistant, and he had no, he didn't have cut on that one. I forget
Because
how that.
because I did read that there was a director's cut that came out later because the opening had something that was NC-17
Yeah. Oh,
that
we had
was
a
released.
hundred and we had 170 cuts we had to made to get an R rating. That so I'll go down that road for just a second. We'll come back to
Sure,
all.
please, please.
So yeah, it was a struggle. The first one we sent to them, the board to view. It's like no, cannot be done. So we just kept whittling away, and I don't know how many times we screened for them. Maybe 4 times. I'm not sure, but yeah, it was a struggle. Um, Funny, I mentioned that bullet going in at the beginning. In the cut we showed them, the bullet is going, and just goes, and then bang, we cut to blood hitting the wall. So, it doesn't go into the person, but
Yeah.
just definitely bullet bang. Well, to make it less impactful, we stopped the bullet because the bullet had to stop before it hit the person. It was a big prop bullet about this big in front of the camera lens. So you're riding down and it stops. Wait a beat, then go to the blood hitting the wall. That was more comedy. That was more Bugs Bunny. Um, uh, so
Speaking of Bugs Bunny, I think there was a piece of music in there that was a Bugs Bunny show. I may
there's
be wrong. Some
well, no,
cartoon.
there's not. There's a cartoon. There's a um, when Rodney Dangerfield gets killed by Juliette Lewis.
Yes,
That was
yes.
going to be the temp music we put in there was a Warner Brothers cartoon. I don't remember. I'm the one who put it in. I don't remember what cartoon it was from.
Could be Roadrunner.
Maybe I wish I kept all my tracks. Um, but Warner Brothers, who was releasing the film, wouldn't give us permission to use their music for that
Really?
because that would really taint their cartoons.
Yeah, it's true, true. Good point. Yeah.
So we hired a composer who since I've worked with several times, Richard Gibbs, who was in the keyboardist for Oingo Boingo, and he wrote this 3-minute uh, cartoon music. Trying to think of the composer at the time, who Carl Stalling, inspired by Carl Stalling, and So that's what's playing in there. It's our own
Okay.
music. And so we're talking about MPAA. Oh, so yeah, we just kept whittling away. One thing we had to really cut down on, which we could have maybe extended it to make it funnier, but Robert Downey gets a bullet through the hand, and the hole is the size of a, grapefruit. And anyway, they thought that was a bit much, so that's very quick now. But yeah, we trimmed a little language, a lot of swearing in there, but that wasn't the problem. Um, it was just overall, just pull it back here and there, and or extend here and there. It got funnier. Um, but yeah, it was a little struggle to get an R rating.
It makes you wonder that, watching that film, it's pretty violent as it is.
Yeah,
Like what must have gotten out? I mean, I understand the beat of the bullet and the comic relief behind it, but
yeah.
I'm still wondering, like 170 cuts, what was it that actually got
It's
out?
cumulative. It's the same kind of stuff that's there,
Yeah,
but just less of it.
I
Uh,
got it, got it.
no particular, no particular, there's no, uh, yeah, no particular action that was so offensive. It was just, they just overwhelmed them, like the color timers machine, almost broke them. Um, but getting back to Oliver, I was young, just thrown into this his crazy world, and um, a lot of flashbacks going through my head right there. And um, he just wanted he just wanted passion. He wanted to feel something, and he would. I wouldn't say he's Machiavellian, but he loved having multiple editors because he could work them against each other if he wanted to do that. I think it was on Nixon. He says, I don't know if he was talking to me or Hank, but one of you, you're fucking up my movie. Give it to the other guy. So we'd swap scenes. Um,
I think
and
Coppola likes to work that way too. Francis
okay,
Ford
yeah,
Coppola. Yeah, but go on. I had two
yeah,
editors on from Megalopolis, and they said the exact same thing. But go on, please.
yeah. I pity them. That must have been hard. Um, but I had worked for an editor who was passionate, great storyteller, but he took it very seriously, and I just realized, oh, he's not mad at me for something. It's just he's just into his work. So I learned how to let passionate people pass by me. So Oliver's tirades and stuff didn't bother me at all. And well, I mean, it was stressful, but I didn't take it personally. So we survived. I worked with him just a couple of years ago, just during COVID. We did a couple of documentaries, one on JFK, um, and he's mellowed a little bit. He's much more complimentary, and we had a
Yeah.
we had a good time. I hadn't seen him since well, hadn't seen him basically since Nixon or U-turn. So
U-Turn was another interesting film, which I have to see rewatch. Sean Penn one, right? I
yeah,
think it
yeah,
was.
Jennifer
Yeah,
Lopez.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um,
I was on that for half the time. I wasn't going to do it because I'd gotten a job up here in Seattle and I intended to move here. So I said, all right, Nixon was the last. I got to go. My life. I'm leaving Hollywood. And he said, no, you're not. You got to do this film. So we made an agreement that I would go until January 1st when we were assembled, and I would move off to my job up here. So anyway, um, yeah, the job up here was doing commercials, and I realized I don't want to do commercials.
yeah, yeah.
Back to Hollywood
It,
I went.
Back to Hollywood. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like, I mean, there's so many facets of cinematography and editing that you can do, from commercial to events to
Yeah.
docs to
Oh yeah, yeah,
film. But there's just something about the arc of storytelling, like how the arc forms, that you can do that in commercial nowadays too, but it's just not that fulfilling, at least for me personally,
yeah.
right?
Right.
Because like 30 seconds, how much can you pull that off,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It was
But
they were like little Rube Goldberg things, Fabergé eggs, little things that don't really mean anything. I enjoyed it on some of them. What
yeah,
drove me crazy is when I was doing them, we were cutting them to 32 seconds and then speed varying them. Like, just
Oh, really, eh?
come on, you can lose a few frames and still and let the it seems stupid to me. If you have a
That's
format, it's the
interesting.
format.
I never noticed that. Now I gotta watch some 90 ads, watch
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
It's
I don't know how many people did that, but that's the company I worked for. That was his trick to cram more things in there and then cram it in shorter. So,
I mean, 2 seconds is 48 frames. How much can you,
yeah, yeah.
you know? Wow.
60 frames
Uh,
working at 30 frames a second. Yeah.
oh, you were right. Back then it was 30 frames a second television.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
became more so, yes. Um, and just to kind of, as we sort of kind of get to the last portion of our conversation, what was one thing that you learned about yourself while working on Natural Born Killers? I know it's been a long time, but if you can, did it make you more confident? Did it make you more like, oh, I can do anything after this? Or,
It was a bit of a whirlwind, and that, kicked my career into gear. I got a lot of calls after that and, got an agent and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, definitely gave me a lot of confidence. The violence part of it bothered me. I turned down some good jobs that were, or at least being considered for them, just because it's like I was going to get pigeonholed as this violent
yeah.
editor. I didn't want to
Well,
do that. So that
welcome to Hollywood.
yeah, I've definitely sold my soul along the way, but um, yeah, so it made me realize that the story is important for me. It's not just a paycheck or, box office or whatever acclaim. I choose jobs for the most part, unless I'm starving.
Yeah, yeah,
But
of course.
is
We all
is
been
this a
there.
yeah, is this a world I want to spend 6 months or a year in? I mean, there are some that I would not want to go back to, but for the most part, it's like, yeah, these are going to be lines that I'll be saying to my wife. We'll be, you know, quoting lines from a movie. Is this the kind of movie I want to quote? So, yeah, that experience made me um, value a really good script. So,
Right on.
you know,
What are some of the movies that you turned down that became to be more like very popular in terms of part of popular
well,
culture?
I'm not sure I should say those kinds of things, but I will. Okay.
If
Uh,
you're willing to share it, you don't have to. I was
oh,
just
well,
curious.
yeah, no, I'm trying to think. Yeah, no, there are not things, Gun Crazy was one that came out right after Natural Born Killers. I didn't want to do that. That was a pigeonholing one. Yeah.
Mm,
There are other ones I turned down so I could stay home up here in Seattle, and I
sure.
regret some of those, but those will be unnamed.
I think you also edited that Mini Driver movie, right?
Yeah,
And
Gross
John
Point
Cusack,
Blank.
Gross Point Blank, yeah.
Yeah,
Which
that was a
I,
lot of fun. Yeah.
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
romantic comedies were the thing back then in '90s.
yeah, that was a lot of fun. The music, I love the music in it, and um, it's just a buoyant, fun serial killer or hitman.
Yeah, yeah. So you brought up music. One of the things that I mean, there were so many musical pieces to
Oh
Natural
my
Born
God.
Killers, but
There's more
one that's
music. There's more music than there is film. There's so many overlapping songs that there's more time
really okay,
music.
okay.
Yeah.
But one music piece that stood out for me was it was I forget the scene. It lasted maybe a minute. Was the vocal of the Pakistani singer Nusrat
Nusrat
Fateh Ali
Al
Khan? Yeah.
Nusrat Atta Ali Fateh Ali
Fateh Ali
Khan. Yeah.
Khan. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So I grew up with his music, and
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So he was also, I think, he was more thoroughly used by David Robbins in Tim Robbins' Dead Man Walking with Sean Penn and
Oh,
Susan
yeah.
Sarandon. So how did that come about? I mean, because in Dead Man Walking, he was there, like he participated with Peter Gabriel, but in
Mm,
this film, it just had like a small piece.
yeah.
What was
Yeah.
the genesis of that?
That's funny. We had Peter Gabriel as well in the film.
Because Peter Gabriel discovered him in
Yeah.
Pakistan, so they
Yeah.
worked. They even produced an album together.
Yeah. Was it real records, real
Yeah, I
world?
think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I got to go to Peter Gabriel's studio and stay there one night on our London, England trip because of the movie. We got to meet him. That was that was a lot of fun. But I'm not sure who chose Nusrat, but I'm gonna think it might have been Hank, because he was working on that section. We we chose the music almost exclusively. Um, and we wanted it to be eclectic, all over the board, opera, the comedy, rock and roll, L7, whatever. One of the producers came into the cutting room one day and just said, "Who do I have to sleep with another word, to get some good music in this film?" And like, what? We love it. So, um, yeah, I'm gonna guess Hank chose
Mm.
that. KCRW is a station in Los Angeles. They play, Morning becomes eclectic. There's a great music show that they had that just they might still have it. I don't know. That exposed us to all kinds of music. In fact, I probably had a Carl Stalling CD because of that. Um, um, so yeah, just pack everything in there and overlap it. And yeah, I think there's at one point there's four songs playing in the opening titles, I think, at one moment where they're blending.
It's insane that I wonder if somebody can take of what's his name? I think it's Topher Grace did this. Some actor who's a big fan of Star Wars, and he recut one of the Star Wars films and just uploaded on YouTube. And I
Uh,
wonder if somebody can pull that off in a similar way, a film that's maybe somewhat closer in terms of theme to Natural Born Killers, but kind of recut it in such a way where it comes across like that with musical tracks and
Funny.
and and, and, and desaturate footage and make it look
Yeah,
like it's 8 millimeter or 16 millimeter. That'd be interesting to see.
that'd be crazy.
Because editing does change the film. It rewrites the film
Oh my God.
completely, right?
Yeah, a friend of mine teaches a course in editing, and he will take a scene's dailies from a scene, or a scene, and give it to the class and say it's a drama, but now make it a comedy. Just totally change it. You can add lines and cheat things and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. And you can have
Uh,
footage without any music of a man walking in a forest, and then
yeah,
you add some creepy music to it, and just completely
exactly.
changes everything.
Or whistling and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the music, I was kind of, I wouldn't say, well, wasn't pissed, but Nine Inch Nails, we took a song of theirs and put it in. We chose it and stuck it in. And then Oliver, or our music supervisor, wanted Trent Reznor to put together the soundtrack album. So he chose pieces from the film. In fact, he chose a piece that I put in. I put in probably more music than anybody else in the show. I fiddle around on a keyboard a bit and drop it in scenes when I'm working, and if it passes muster, it gets in. So, um, so he gets credit for doing the soundtrack to Natural Born Killers. Like, well, he assembled the soundtrack album from our stuff. But anyway, setting the record straight there.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's all good. This
Yeah.
is really cool information. I mean, you just don't know about these things, right? Because A, people don't share because they don't think that's that important, or B, they just kind
Yeah.
of gets forgotten. But it's really cool to know.
It's
It's really
funny
cool to know.
to remember all these things.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. You know what I would love to do, Brian, is since you said Nixon is one of your favorite that
Mhm.
you worked on, maybe we can have another episode and talk about it in thorough, in more
I'll
depth if
I'll
something
re
you're up for.
sure I'll rewatch it.
I'll do that too. But anything else you want to add at the end about Natural Born Killers, or just in general of editing or storytelling?
I will just say how grateful I was for Oliver to give me the chance to dive in there. I was an assistant in the morass of heaven and earth when he was about to start Natural Born Killers. They sort of overlapped, and there were some politics on the crew that were starting, and so he just said, you're, get on the bus." So um, it was a really great honor to be given that chance, and it served me well. And very um, uh, just a great full circle to come back and work with him here so much later in my career. And um,
I was going to
well,
ask you, did you convey him this thought when you met him 5 years ago for JFK documentary?
yes, I did. Yep, yep. Yeah, he was working, his office was just a couple doors away from where an office of mine was. I just called him up and said, Oliver, I'm next door. I'm coming over. And we had a great, we sat and talked for almost an hour, just hadn't seen each other for a long time. So I never felt like I was his best friend when we were working, but you know, I feel welcomed into the filmmaking community by him.
That's good to know. No, he's an incredible director and very outspoken. Sometimes interestingly controversialist, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing in
Yeah,
my world. But he says what he thinks, and that's
sure
we need
does.
more of that in this world. Everybody will be at ease.
Yes, we do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian, for your time. A really pleasure having you and talking about this very interesting film, Natural Born Killers.
Thank you,
Looking forward
sir.
to talking to Nixon. Maybe that will be some different conversation completely.
All right, great.
All right, take care, Brian.
Thank you. Bye-bye.